What's up? Matt here from Loon Outdoors. Today we're tying an intrudery, wiggly creature called a wiggle squid. I'm going to start out with a shank. I'm actually just using a 93-95 hook that I have a surplus of. Typically I just cut these into a shank form. So we'll go ahead and put that in the vise. And let me go ahead and bend it out just a little bit so I have a little bit more room to work with here. So once I have all of this done and it's kind of mounted in there, we can go ahead and start. I'm tying with some Vivas 50D thread. And I'll go ahead and create a nice thread body going down the shank of this hook. Realistically, I'm looking for 1 inch to 1.5 inches, nothing too major. And this is a size medium, double pupil. So I do wraps back up, just creating like kind of an interlocking pattern here. And we'll go ahead and figure 8 these eyes on. And once that is done, I do a quick around the base of the eyes, and that secures them in even tighter. You can see it kind of sucks the eyes in, and do a few extra wraps for just good measure overall. So we'll come back to where we started, and what I'm going to be using here is a Ahrex HR482, and that is part of their home run series. It is a octopus style hook designed to be a stinger, and I am joining that with some Senyo's intruder wire. So I do basically a big half hitch through the hook. And the Senyo's intruder wire comes in a plethora of different colors. I'm using pink today because this is a really coastally oriented or influenced pattern for me. Put a mild kink in the wire just to hold it upright. I measure out just about enough to where I can change the hook out if needed, but not too much that I am going to end up flossing fish and, you know, poking them in the eye if they sideswipe this. The rotary function here just allows me to palmer through and secure this hook in really, really well and put down a solid thread base. I don't really glue these. I've never found a reason to with the amount of overlap that I have going on here. I use a pair of really junky big scissors for cutting this a lot of the times, just because I don't want to burn through my good tying scissors. So we'll go ahead and I just spin over the top of this again. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's so much thread on here, it's never going to move. And there's a soft coating to this wire that allows the thread, especially the 50D, just binds into it and creates like micro grip. So next up, we're going to create a rear dubbing ball, and I'm going to use some Diamond Bright and Sherbert. It's a nice bright color. This is also a color that I carry over to some trout flies for hot spots. So it's a great dual purpose, dual use material. So we create just a nice solid dubbing ball back here, and this is just going to help to splay out our rear station of this fly. And I'm going to use some crusher legs. They're just a clear and pink leg. So it's just a barred leg, but it's in clear and pink. And what we'll do here is we take about 4 or 5, whatever you feels right. You know, you could bulk it up, you could slim it out depending on how you want this to look. So you can see I'm going to tie them in on kind of like a left and a right. What I do here is I'm actually splitting them over 2 sides. And I really crank down on these guys so that I don't have a huge taper situation going on here. I'm going to leave them long, kind of sitting on the back of the fly. And next up, this is some Purl flat braid. It's a nice light material. Easy to work with, accepts UV resin, cures all the way through, and just builds an ultra bomber fly. I'll go ahead and start by palmarine this down the body of the fly. And when I get up to where I want my front collar to be, I'm going to take a few extra wraps and kind of just secure this all in place. And typically I wrap back over the material just enough to, you know, make sure it's incredibly secure. A little bit of pink Copic just for the top, so I can create a two-toned a top and a bottom without having to do crazy weaving technologies and stuff like that. We can add some spots to it to create a different look, feel, and finish to the fly. And ultimately, we'll coat this with flow. Once we coat this with flow, everything's going to bind all together. The thread is clear, the material is translucent enough to allow UV light through it, and it really kind of helps to mitigate any lumpiness in the body. You know, you might get a little bit of sag with the resin. End of the day, I'm not particularly worried about it for my personal fishing applications. Some more of that sherbet diamond bright dubbing is going to work for part of our collar here. And we'll go ahead and just create a dubbing noodle with this as well. So once we have this front station in there, and this is going to be right behind the eyes. I don't want a ton of bulk anywhere on this pattern. We're going to go ahead and utilize the new D-loop pliers, and we'll show you what they do. Alrighty, so with the D-loop plier, what this is designed to do is to pick up all of your materials for like a multi-material dubbing loop or a composite loop, if you would like to call it that, and kind of pinch it together all into one awesome thing. So I'm going to get about 4 inches of diamond bright here, some Arctic fox or fin raccoon, whichever one you would like. Take everything out of the labels and packages typically. So I'm going to pull out all of the underfur here until I'm left with just some of the better, longer fibers. You can save that for later for various dubbing projects too. Makes a good dubbing. So all I'm doing now, it's kind of off camera, is I'm hiding all those materials, and I'm going to pick them up with the new D-loop pliers that we just launched from Loon. And so now you can see I have all of this material picked up in a loop, and it's now at my disposal, which is awesome. So I can create my dubbing loop here. And all right, so once I have this all put in my loop, I'm going to go ahead and I do a few last minute positioning things. And I can go ahead and trim off all of the excess material that I don't want. So if I want this to be a single-sided loop, not a double-sided loop, I can completely trim that back. And we'll go ahead and spin this. We run the spin cycle a few times and get this just all picked out, make sure nobody's, you know, getting held back by each other. So after I'm done getting everything all preened and pushed in there, we'll go ahead and start palmering this through. I treat it just like hackle because I only use realistically one side. There was a clump for some reason, didn't stick in there. Looks like it was just hanging on the edge. So you can see you start to get this really cool head shape, length, and you don't need to cram all of the material on there. It's up to you, depending on how bulky you want it to be. A little bit overzealous there with my my dubbing loop, which tends to happen. So I'll brush all this back, and everything that I just wrapped over, I'm just going to, kind of work on it. Pick out any further dubbing that is loose at the time. And I really just crank down on this at this point. I really dig the translucency of the natural hair. And we're going to couple that with some of these barred voodoo fibers as well. Cut the corner of the bag and I just pick out kind of what I really want to work with here. And the way that I'm going to work with these is I just am going to tie them in about the halfway point and spread them out. So once I get them kind of where I want them, go ahead and just kind of spread them around the clock. So if you're looking at the front of the fly like a clock, we'll just spread them around the top half of a clock. So between 3 and 9. Couple tight wraps there. And what I ultimately end up doing is I'll separate the bottom fibers and bring them down and around, taper cut them if you would like at any point here. So you can see I bring it under the eye, so it's also going to create like a little bit of cover for that eye. Sorry about the hands being in the way. It's just kind of the nature of filming fly tying without 38 different angles. So you can see it's still sparse. There's a ton of movement, ton of profile. And last but not least, I'll bring in a little piece of guinea, just that plays back in with these original leg colors. It's kind of a peachy cream color. So once I have the guinea tied in, again, tip first is my favorite way to do it. I've stripped off all of the under fluff that I don't want, and now I'm just going to gently work these fibers around those micro barred voodoo wrap awesome material. So I'm doing a figure 8 over the top of the fly and then wrapping it all the way through. For the whip finish. I'll go ahead and color this up with a little bit of marker. And the last thing will be just a little bit of flow to hold it together. The flow is a great binder. It's going to get through all of those materials and get them all dialed in. Anyways, guys, I hope you greatly enjoyed watching this video, and we hope to see you on the next one. Give this fly a try, go swing it for some steelhead, and have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.